Hey everybody, welcome back to On Deck. I'm Bill, that's Lloyd. Finally got you back on the right side, Lloyd. How you doing, man?
I'm confused now. I don't know which way to look.
Right. We could do that
Seems
Brady
right, yeah.
Bunch thing. I'm looking the wrong way. Oh yeah.
I'm doing really well, man. We didn't record yesterday because it was Father's Day, so hopefully you had a happy Father's Day.
I did. I played a bunch of video games and we had bratwurst on the grill and it was a really nice sunny day. I got the lawn mowed and then I spent the like most of my day was spent doing work though because I had some end of the year school stuff to work on and it was kind of a bear but I waited till too long. I waited to the last. I did the thing that I always tell everybody, don't do that. So I did spend a
Right.
lot of time working yesterday, but you know what, I survived, and at the end of the
Nice.
day that's really what's important. So if you guys did not know, this is On Deck, a podcast all about PC gaming, mostly on the Steam Deck. Lloyd and I have been playing the hell out of the Steam Decks a lot lately. And by the way, before we get started, if you are one of the first people here, watch all the way through. There's going to be a code or maybe two, I can't remember, for some games that you can play. It'll pop up in the video sometime during the show. Big thank you to Wookie for sharing those codes with us. We really do appreciate it. If you have some codes, reach out, let us know. We can share them with the community. Let's start off with community comments. We had somebody who, they didn't post this as a comment on the YouTube channel, but they did send us a message on Discord. And I thought that Lloyd would want to check this out. He said,
Yeah.
this is from I Can't See, who's a very long time Discord member. They said, on the newest episode of On Deck, you talk about Geometry Wars. I don't know if it works on deck, but I recommend Ascending Madness. It was made by a studio in my area. I helped test it. Also, Geometry Wars was an influence. So, Lloyd, have you had a chance to actually check this out? Because I think it looks pretty cool.
It looks really cool. I have not checked it out yet. It's on my wish list for when I need something new to play. We'll get into what we're playing or what we've been playing shortly, and you'll see why I haven't picked this one up yet. But it looks really cool. It's like Geometry Wars / RPG with a really cool kind of almost like a hand drawn art style. Cool looking little game, which eventually I will for sure be checking out on deck.
Yeah, if you guys have other recommendations for like little indie games that you really enjoy, please feel free, reach out, leave us a comment on the YouTube channel or hit us up on Twitter or join our Discord. There's a billion ways to get in touch with us. But thank you very much to I Can't See for sending that in. Lloyd, what have you been playing? Because you said you've been playing a lot. So what have you been playing, man?
Yeah, I've been playing mainly 3 games, but there's a couple other things that I want to chat about as well. Last episode, I talked about picking up that Humble Bundle because of Dragon's Dogma, and then Dragon's Dogma was listed as unsupported. So I didn't try installing it. Immediately after the podcast went live, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It works perfectly well. So I went and I looked at it again, and the actual message on the unsupported wasn't the normal, we're still gathering info. It was certain settings, certain graphical settings do not allow this game to run properly on deck. We're still adding support, blah, blah, blah. But apparently if you download it, it works. I had to use, I think, Vulkan 6 point something. I can't remember which version of Vulkan for it to run. But I was able to get it to run, and I was super happy because I wanted to play this game for a while. And then other games came out, and then I haven't even booted it again since getting it running. So I had a whole week where I wasn't really playing much of anything. That would have been perfect for. But there's some different games for us to talk about. But for anybody like me that was maybe holding off of Dragon's Dogma, it does work on deck, and it is on sale for like $8 now or something crazy. It's on crazy Steam sales. So if you didn't pick up the bundle and you still want just that one game, you can get it for super cheap. But I think it's part of the bundle when you only buy like the first tier, or maybe it's the second tier. So I think it's still cheaper to get from Humble Bundle. Anyway, long and short of it, it does work on deck. I was able to boot it. Thanks everybody on YouTube for dropping a comment that it is a game that is functioning on deck.
Awesome. So a game that we've both been playing a lot of. I actually have finished it twice now because it's short and it's really, really good. Is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I anticipate that we're probably going to talk about this for kind of an extended period of time, because this game is so good. Like, I've played a lot of side-scrolling brawlers recently, like Streets of Rage 4. I think that I played that Scott Pilgrim versus the World one, and then there was that one that was on Stadia where you were like in the mech suits fighting kaiju or whatever. I can't remember what it's called. I played that one. This one puts them all to shame. And I really, really liked Streets of Rage 4. But this one just absolutely drops the mic. It is so fantastic. So just the absolute top level, what do you think, Lloyd? Just, are you in love with this game, or are you playing it and be like, oh, that's pretty cool?
I'm a big Turtles fan. I loved the original cartoon series, and some of my favorite video game memories are playing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games, either the home versions with friends or heading down to the arcade and jumping on any of the Turtles cabinets that were available at the time, which doesn't matter what game was. If it had a turtle that was eating pizza, we were playing that game. So I was super excited about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, but I was also very apprehensive because I've been burnt so many times in the past. I got to say, I was not burnt by this game. This Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge is not only my favorite game that I've played this year, it's one of probably my most favorite, most enjoyable side-scrolling beat-em-up that I've ever played. And I've played, like you, Bill, all of them. This takes... I was talking about it on the Nintendo Pulse podcast, where this game exists... it's like a game from an alternate timeline where the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game style things didn't end. Yeah. And this is like the 7th generation of whatever engine they were using with all the stuff, because it takes all the stuff that was done really well in like Turtles in Time or the TMNT arcade game and just dials it up. So gone is the normal punishment that happens when you're playing a brawler, by using your special moves, by fighting over who picks up the health pickups. All that stuff is gone, and it's a real modern take on the side-scrolling beat-em-up genre. So I'm happy about this game for so many reasons, but I talked a lot. Those are my quick thoughts, Bill, even though they weren't quick like usual. What were your thoughts jumping into it for kind of the first time?
So I have to say, first off, I didn't expect there to be a world map. That was a surprise, where you can like go around to just play the levels in any order you want once you've beat it. Like I hate level 3. Level 3 I really don't like. For some reason they have these weird... I don't know if it's just me, but when it's one where you're like traveling on one of your hoverboards or whatever, I can't remember.
Yep.
And things are going by, but they have things in the foreground that go from the bottom of the screen all the way to the top of the screen, and they go by like that. If you're listening to the show, I'm sorry, but I waved my hand in front of my camera. And as those things go by, it almost gives me like a little bit of motion sickness. So I almost never play the third level. Like I avoid it at all costs. That's the only time that I run into that issue. But I love the fact that I can just say, oh, you know what? I just want to go into this level and try and go after this achievement, because every level has like these challenges that you can do. Like don't get hit with an obstacle 3 times, don't let something grab you, and of course the ridiculous ask of don't take any damage on this level, which I will never ever have. That will never happen in for me. Lloyd's holding up fingers. You did it?
I did it on a level, and then I walked into a pit. I got all the way to the screen right before the boss, and I walked into, it was either a pit or a manhole or some trap of some sort, and I was just like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. That's gonna ruin it. And of course, right on the bottom of the screen, little X for your challenge. So I almost did one of those challenges. But yeah, you're right. They are crazy.
It's crazy to try that. I love the RPG mechanic. Well, not so much RPG. I like the stat building mechanic where, as you're playing through story modes, you get more and more powerful. So like you mentioned before, we have like the super attacks, but instead of taking your life away by hitting the super attack, what happens instead is you hit the button and it uses up a separate resource. So you have another resource to manage, and you build that resource either by taunting or, well, at least I think with like I've been using, what's his name? Splinter. I've been using Splinter, and he'll like sit down and meditate, and it will build a bar. Is that way with all of the characters?
Yeah, when you do it, if you successfully taunt, you get a charge of your super meter.
Yeah.
By immediately. So the game is separated into two kind of modes. In arcade mode, you can have, if you've leveled up your characters, you can have up to 3 charges. So in some levels, I'll just sit there and meditate 3 times in a row and then continue on with the level. It's super handy as a really easy way to build up that supercharge.
Absolutely. So I like that, but you also unlock more moves as you play. So you get your supercharge, but then you can also do a backflip and then a supercharge afterwards, and that does a different style of attack, which is more like the main supercharge is like an area of effect attack around you. The backflip supercharge is more like a straight in front of you, kind of like a line area of attack. And then there's another one where you jump up in the air and do a super attack, and you come crashing down, and you do a bunch of damage that way. And then, of course, if you have all 3, then you can do like some crazy super powered attacks, which is really cool. I really like that mechanic where I'm continually getting better. It'll say, "Hey, you just earned more hit points," as you play through. Story mode is really cool. Arcade mode is what you're looking for if you are more into the old school, super punishing, quarter muncher of yesteryear, because that starts at the beginning and you play through that until you either run out of dudes or you finish it. So have you finished the game yet, Lloyd?
Yeah, I've beaten the game. I've only gotten 2 of my turtles up to level 10, or 2 of my playable characters up to level 10, because they're not all turtles. That to me, that would be my only complaint, is that once you beat the game for the first time, and for me, I kept Donatello the whole entire way. So Donatello was probably level 40 by the time I beat the game, but it stops at level 10 once you get to 2,000 of your points, and you get those points by attacking enemies, beating bosses, or helping people with the game. So after I did that, it's like, okay, well, it's going to take me forever to level up all these other characters unless I start story mode over again, which is interesting. Arcade mode, on the other hand, so when you pop into arcade mode, you get X number of lives. I think it's 3 or 4 to begin with. And you get a fully leveled up turtle or playable character, except with a maximum of 1 supercharge. So it's an easier way to go through the game. Or is it 2? Oh,
it's
yeah, that's
2,
right.
but you can't get the third one.
That's right. 2 supercharges, or 2 super move charges. You can bank up to that. And you have a fully maxed out character as far as life and your powers go. So it's kind of an easier way to jump right into it. Although when you first start story mode, it's not like you can only take 3 hits and you die. You have a sizable life meter, but when you play through arcade mode, your life meter is maybe double or a third bigger, or whatever it is. So it gives you a lot of options to play through it. And of course, we haven't even started talking about multiplayer. There's up to 6-player local and online multiplayer, so you don't have to play through Turtles yourself. So my initial thought of, it's going to take me forever to level up these turtles, it's like, well, no, it's not. I'm just going to go play through a bunch of multiplayer stuff, and I'll be able to level all my characters that way, and it should be pretty easy peasy to do that. So I've been loving this, like all the way down to the music. Like,
the music is fantastic.
Listen to the soundtrack. It sounds like, that's a track from the cartoons. Oh, that's a track from this video game. Oh, that's a track from this. But it's all new music. But they did a really good job making it sound like it's a continuation of stuff that already existed. And the fact that there's like 2 members of Wu-Tang are on one track, I'm like, really? There's like real people that are all into Turtles as well. It's not just us nostalgia driven gamers. It's a lot of people that way. It's I don't know, the whole package from start to finish has been amazing. I guess the only thing that I'm sad about, I guess, is the fact that the developers have come out and said that they have no plans for DLC, because I think this game would be perfect. They already have like a whole bunch of deep cuts. Like there's there's bosses that didn't exist in the cartoon at all. They didn't exist in any of the video games, but they were taken from like one particular run of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics. I'd love to see other things like that added, new bosses, new playable characters, like a boss rush mode, like other things added to it down the road as DLC. I have a feeling that this game is selling so damn well that we will probably get that in the future. But even if we don't, this is right now for me my game of the year. Like, it's my favorite game that I've played this year, which is ridiculous. But also one of the best side-scrolling beat-em-ups that I've ever played, from the dawn of side-scrolling beat-em-ups with the early ones in the arcade. This is just such a good package, and you can really tell that the people that were working on it were not just people that bid for a license and got it and then said, oh crap, we have to make a game now. These are people that love the source, the source comic, movie, cartoon, whatever they drew something from, because there's little Easter eggs everywhere that if you've played the games, read the comics, even from the movies, there's like little Easter eggs that if you're familiar with them, it's going to make you smile when you jump into it. So I don't know what else I can say about it without gushing some more. I'm just enjoying this game so damn much, and it runs like a treat on the Steam Deck because it is I don't know, an 8-bit style, 16-bit style retro beat 'em up. Even though the graphic settings are a little bit weird, you can still get like 5 hours out of your Steam Deck without any problems playing this game, which I may have done once or twice, or maybe once with this game.
Lloyd is running his Steam Deck into the ground playing this game, and he's not the only one. I will say this. I've got a pro tip for everybody out there on why the Steam Deck is the best place to play this game, and that is Steam Input. First off, the game fully supports Steam Input. So, like, when you go in, if you want to adjust your inputs at all, instead of saying, oh, we'll make this the X button, when you select an input, you can say, make this the attack button. And that's a thing that's like, means that they're using the API for Steam Input. So what you do, I like to set my right trigger to be the attack button. And then I set that to be a turbo attack button. So instead of hitting X, 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 X over and over and over, I walk up to an enemy and I pull the trigger. And I figured this out. Like, I didn't think of it until I was probably on level 14 or 15. So I didn't figure it out until the end. But it's so much more comfortable when you're playing to just pull the trigger instead of going bop, 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 bop. And that's not a skill thing. That's just a repetitive stress injury waiting to happen by hitting that button, right, spamming over and over. So I just excuse me. All I did was just bind that trigger to be a turbo attack and turn off the haptics because it's kind of irritating. And you will be very, very happy with that. This game is just amazing. The art, the music, the combat. Have you played multiplayer, Lloyd?
I have not.
Okay.
Multiplayer was supposed to be something that we did yesterday for Father's Day. We were going to have some family game time, but we had the in-laws came over and there was some delays in getting stuff ready. I had to get the grill ready for the steak and shrimp that I was grilling up. So I haven't played any multiplayer, which is so sad. This is a side-scrolling beat 'em up. You need to play with friends. So I need to at least do like a remote play together session in the near future to play through some of this game. We'll have to play some multiplayer, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. The multiplayer is fantastic. I do have a couple of things that I wish that they had done differently. So first off, partying up, you just hit a button, then it shows you the parties that are available. You pick one, you jump into their game, you select your character. There you go. You are off to the races. Works flawlessly. When you have 6 players on the screen, it is absolute insanity, nonstop. There's so much stuff happening on the screen. It would be really nice if your character, when they get occluded by, like, I don't know, Leonardo's super attack or whatever, if your outline was always visible, because I find myself quite often losing where I am on the screen, and I'm like, and it's not like I look around. It's like it's a little screen. Like I'm just looking at a 7-inch screen, and I can't find my character on there because there's so much stuff happening. I really wish that there was a thing that either like an arrow that always showed up that was pointing down at your head that says, "This is you, you big dummy," or make my character have an outline so that I can see them all the time. That's like my one complaint there. Multiplayer is really, really fantastic. It just goes absolutely flawless. There was a little icon on the bottom, and it was red, showing me like I think my ping to whoever was hosting.
Right.
And I was noticing it was red, which indicates to me bad, but I wasn't I didn't notice any problems at all. It just works just flawlessly, and it's really, really fun. I just was like, I'm just gonna try it out, and then I ended up playing like 4 levels with this group of 5 other randos. This game is just awesome, and you absolutely have to play it. I think it's on sale right now for $17 if you go to Green Man Gaming, and that gives you a Steam code. So don't quote me on that because it might no longer be by the time you see this. All right, Lloyd, what else have you been playing?
Well, my favorite game of the year comes out, and I'm happily playing it and enjoying it and just having a good time. And then we get the stealth release of Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is a game I've always wanted to play. It's available on Epic, but I didn't want to buy it on Epic Game Store for whatever reason. And then it drops and it gets released on Steam, and it's the Intergrade, which has the new DLC bundled in with it. And then it was released on Steam, and I'm like, dang it. I kind of really want this. And then Green Man Gaming had another sale where I got like 40% off, and I'm like, damn it. Okay, bought it right out, even though I had a game that I wanted to play and that I loved in TMNT. And I jumped right into Final Fantasy VII Remake. And holy crap, we'll get into this when we get into the news. We'll talk about the special thing about this game when we get into the news. But this game runs so well on deck. I've been playing portable Final Fantasy VII for, I think my timer's at like 5 or 6 hours. And that's off one recharge. I can get 3+ hours of battery life of this game. And it's Final Fantasy VII Remake, so it's not like it's some graphical slouch.
Is that did you do like a bunch of stuff to get there, or is that just out of the box?
Not a lot of stuff can be done with it. There's only really one graphical setting you can choose. I turned down the shadow and the texture quality from high to low. Those are the only choices that I had. And everything else is pretty much stock. And yeah, I'm getting 3+ hours on a charge. Except if you're running around one of the big open worlds, that tends to sap the battery a little bit. So if you're spending 3 hours running around outside, you might only get 2 hours. But if you're playing the game normally, going in, doing quests and whatever, I've gotten to, I think, chapter 5 so far in the game. And I think there's 14 chapters or something. So loving this game. It plays like a dream on deck. And thank you for bringing this to Steam, because as much as someone can get the games from Epic running on deck and GOG running on deck and all the other places where you can get PC games running, I just love the simplicity of going to my library, saying install this, leaving my deck on my bedside table, plugged in, letting the 2-hour install happen for this game, because it's like 100 gigs on Steam Deck, which is a little bit crazy, but downloaded all that stuff, jumped right into it, and expected like 45 minutes of battery life, and instead got 2 to 3 hours of battery life after the download. And it just blew me away, man. This game is fantastic. I know it's very expensive for what it is. It's a remake, but this is a remake of the remake. Essentially, it's an updated version of the remake that had already existed, and I think they want $100 for this Canadian retail price, and I was able to get it for like $60 or whatever it is. So your mileage may vary depending on where you're buying it, but if you've been waiting like me to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, it runs like a dream on deck, and this is where I will be finishing this game. I can't wait to collect all the materia and all the other stuff that you do in Final Fantasy VII, and walk around with Emo Cloud with his grumpy face and his big sword. It's been a heck of a lot of fun playing this game on deck.
Yeah, it's a really good game. I don't think I'm going to buy it for the Steam. I will say I am blown away that you're getting 3 hours of this game on the Steam Deck. That is really impressive from Square. I think that that's awesome. I have you might be able to see it sitting right here, just barely out of frame. You can see I've got a PS5, and I had already bought this game on PS4, and they did a special upgrade where it gives you the PS5 version automatically, which is great. I can't see myself buying it again because I don't need to, and there's that storage footprint as well, like you said, 100 gigs. But man, the idea that you can get 3 hours on the Steam Deck, and I play this Steam Deck more than any other platform that I play at all. Like my Xbox and my PS5, they get used, but not nearly as much as the Steam Deck. It's just so convenient to be sitting there on the couch, grab it. All right, I'm going to do a level in Turtles or whatever. It's so good. And my Switch, there was a Fire Emblem, the new Musou game, the Fire Emblem game that that's coming out. There's a demo. I downloaded the demo. I can't be bothered to boot it up because I've been spending too much time playing Ninja Turtles. It's just crazy. So this thing I'm using all the time, but I don't know if I want to buy the game again. But Final Fantasy VII Remake is fantastic. The 3 hours though, that's a big deal. Holy cow!
Yeah, give or take, maybe. We'll say 2.5 to 3.5 hours, depending on what you're doing in the game. And that's not at all what I assumed I would get with Final Fantasy VII Remake on deck. So they did a really good job. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Before we get into what you played next, I've also been playing a lot of Elder Scrolls Oblivion on deck. Downloaded the Steam version of Oblivion with all the DLC. And the default controls that it auto chooses for you, I did not like. So I went and scoped through all of the community ones, and I found a really good one that was meant for Steam controller, modified it a little bit, and now I'm happily running through Oblivion, taking down Daedra and trying to be the badass warrior of the land. It plays so well on Steam Deck, and it's one of those games where it pops up a little thing first and you have to choose your little graphical settings. And I'm like, I don't know if I should put high or ultra. And I'm like, wait, this is like a 47-year-old game. So I cranked everything up and booted into it. And yeah, you get 6 hours at max settings. And I turned down some of the stuff that you don't need that you like. One of the things that I always do is I take shadow quality and I crank it all the way down, because on such a small screen, you don't really benefit from the resource hit that you get from having shadows enabled. So I think that's the only thing I turned down. And I'm playing through Oblivion on my Steam Deck, like a 100-hour RPG in the palm of my hands, and then other 100-hour RPGs in the palm of my hands on that device. It's just, it continues to blow me away how amazing the Steam Deck is. But yeah, playing through games like this just kind of show it off really, really well. Oblivion
is really, really great on the Steam Deck, and that's one of the first games that I installed when I got the Steam Deck. So I absolutely agree with you, and it's really cool to just be able to sit down. Oh, okay, I'm going to just do this one quest, and you just do that one quest and then move on and set it back down and do something else without going to your desk, sitting down, turning on the device, doing all of the stuff. So much more convenient. If you've been watching Lloyd and I talk about video games for any length of time, you know that convenience is our number one priority when it comes to that kind of stuff. All right. Yep. So last week we told you that Steam Next Fest was coming up, and as part of Steam Next Fest, I was looking at a bunch of different games. A lot of them I will installed and played for a couple minutes and then was like, okay, this is not running well. Like there's one that's like an MMO. I can't remember the name of it. Fire and Ice, or I can't remember. Anyway, it was part of Steam Next Fest. I installed it, ran like absolute garbage. Like it was, I'm going to say 10 frames per second. I'm not a frames per second snob, but I turned it down to low settings and I was getting like 15 frames per second. So I was like, well, I'm just going to uninstall that. I'll see if I can Fire and Frost, I think is what it's called. Anyway, in other news, something from Steam Next Fest that is awesome is Agent 64 Spies Never Die. You had
Right.
posted something about this in the community Discord, and I saw it, and I was like, well, I better check this out. Holy cow, this game is fun. I just did the demo, but it's really cool.
Yeah, I saw an ad for this game of all things, or a little segment on the PC gaming show that I just had kind of running in the background. I wasn't actively kind of watching the show, just kind of on for noise. And then they were talking about, if you like GoldenEye 64, you definitely want to check that one out. And I'm like, what? Turn my head, look at the screen. And yeah, Agent 64, it's going to be, I guess, releasing to early access sometime this year. But it is essentially GoldenEye done in a modern engine. They're using Unity. So it's as quirky as GoldenEye was, with kind of like your aiming, where your gun just kind of stretches all over your screen for aiming. It has low poly models with like bad textures, but it's done that way because it's trying to emulate what those old games were. And yeah, if you want to play GoldenEye, I guess you could emulate that if you really want to. But if you want to play a game that is like GoldenEye, where the full version is going to have like a level editor for multiplayer and all this fun stuff, definitely keep your eyes on Agent 64. I've been really, really enjoying it as I've been playing through the demo here on my Steam Deck.
Yeah, so I never played GoldenEye. I know that like a lot of people are going to be like, "Give me back your gamer card, Bill. You can't have that." I never played GoldenEye. I played Mario on my Nintendo 64. I played Zelda. I played Blast Corps. I played a lot of single player games. If I was playing a multiplayer game, it was at the time on my PC. I was playing Ultima Online or
Right.
Diablo, like those kind of games instead. So I never got around to playing GoldenEye, and I think I was probably the only one in my friend group that had a Nintendo 64 anyway. So all that being said, I don't have the nostalgia for this, but it's really good. Like, I mean, what I've played, which is just the demo's really good. It's surprising to me how not needing to aim is still like, I thought if I can't control where I'm aiming with the right stick, how is that going to be fun? It actually is. It really is fun. And for everybody out there who has a ton of nostalgia for GoldenEye, you should definitely check this out. I think that you're going to enjoy it. Very, very GoldenEye vibes from all the GoldenEye stuff that I have seen. And let's be honest, the thing about GoldenEye that was amazing was the gameplay, not the IP. I mean, I like James Bond, but the gameplay is probably what kept people there. It's not because it was James Bond. I think that was just a selling point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is a really good version of a retro first-person shooter. So I can't wait for the full version to come out to have a better look at it. But definitely go check out that demo. It's up on Steam right now. And if you have any nostalgia for old school shooters, which I do, I was one of those people whose friends were such like screen peeking cheaters. I built a contraption out of cardboard to separate my television into 4 quadrants, so you can only see your quadrant when you're playing. And we played so much deathmatch in GoldenEye. It just made me smile to play this one on my Steam Deck.
So I decided that I wanted to find something. Was there another game that you wanted to talk about on your list before we get to mine, or no? I can't remember.
Yeah, another demo. I checked out Midnight Fight Express.
Oh, yeah.
That's a game, I think it's being published by Humble Bundle, I think is the reason why this one first popped into my in my feed, because they were talking about their games coming up. And this is a top-down isometric beat 'em up where you kind of build your skills as you play through it. And it reminds me a lot of like Sifu, which is a really hard brawler where if you miss a punch or if you miss a dodge, you could basically die from any enemy in the game. This one doesn't seem to be as punishing, but it has a lot of the kind of mechanics of Sifu. Like you walk up to a part of the screen where there's some boxes or chairs, and you just hit one of your triggers and you grab one and you turn to the closest enemy and just whip it at their head. And it's very, very fluid when it starts to kick into kind of like the battles. Like all the enemies are not waiting their turn. They're all trying to get on top of you. and an attack. There's a counter system, and then there's a full skill tree that you can unlock. So if you really like your counters and you want to do more damage in counters or flip over enemies, you can put all your points into kind of that skill tree. Really loving this game. Really, really loving this game, and I can't wait for this one to come out. I'll definitely be checking it out. We're kind of in some crazy renaissance for side-scrolling beat-em-up games, which is crazy to me, even though this isn't really side-scrolling, it's isometric, same sort of thing. And I can't wait to jump into more of this one when the full version comes out.
All right, let's move on to Terra Nil. It is a game that I put this on the list because I tried it out thanks to Steam Next Fest. And I said, well, this is very different than any other game that I've talked about on the Steam Deck so far. It is like a world building simulation where you've got like this, and I've only played the demo, by the way, but it's like this city builder where you have to rebuild the ecosystem after, I guess, some bad stuff has happened. And you got to go through and, put water down and then use that water in order to plant things. And then, you build everything up starting from scratch, slowly making things better. And this is one of those games where you look at it and it's like, oh, this is built around the mouse. Yes, it is. It works great on the Steam Deck. At least the demo that I played worked great on the Steam Deck. I think that overall, just the myriad of input options that you have means that almost every game is going to be playable on the Steam Deck. And Terra Nil is one of those games that it actually feels really good to just, put your thumb on that trackpad, drop the little water extractor wherever, and then just pull that trigger and bam, it shows up. And then all the foliage comes out and the water comes. The animation in this game is really cool. That's another game from Steam Next Fest. It's Terra Nil. And if you like city builders, I think that you could probably want to check that out. Are you ready to move on to the news, Lloyd?
Yeah, let's do it, Bill.
All right. So this is very interesting. Somebody mentioned this in the Discord. I immediately took a picture of my Steam Deck and tweeted it out because they've changed the way that Steam is going to be updating, essentially, or Steam OS is going to be updating. They're essentially breaking out operating system updates and Steam updates into separate channels. So now you have a lot of different ways to update. You could be updating your operating system, you could be updating Steam, you could be updating a flat pack in the Linux stuff, or you could just be updating some third-party thing. And of course, you can also be on the beta channel of the OS update and the stable channel of Steam, or vice versa. So my first thought is, why would they do this? That's my first thought. And then my second thought is, couldn't this introduce a lot of problems where it's hard to diagnose because everybody has, they're on different tracks and stuff. So Lloyd, when you look at this, that the operating system and Steam are on separate update channels now, why do you think they did that?
Let's go somewhere else first.
Okay.
The one thing that always kind of confused me is when we'd get a like a patch list or patch notes would come out and they'd say updated Steam version to blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, okay. I updated my OS. Does that mean I have to go into desktop mode and go into Steam and then update Steam client and do all that? I didn't realize that it was all part of the same update process. So I always thought that there was like a two-step thing whenever they said the Steam client needs to be updated. So having it separated out here for me is a lot easier for me to kind of grok when I'm looking at it. When there's an update to Steam client, you'll be able to see it here. I think the reason why they're separating them is because we had an issue, I think it was a couple weeks back, where we got 3 patches in like a very short order, and 2 of them were kind of like Steam client updates. So I think instead of doing like a full OS update where they have to download basically your whole file system, patch it, make a copy of it, move it over, reboot, all that other stuff that comes into updating a read-only file system that can't be updated, if you're just updating Steam, you're just updating it kind of like an application that is already running on your Steam Deck. So to me, pulling it out of the whole OS update makes a lot of sense. But I also agree with you, Bill, where like if I'm calling Steam support because game X isn't working, now they have to know, okay, is your OS on beta? Is your Steam on beta? Are they both on beta or none on beta? Like which version are you on? It will introduce a bunch of potential problems, but it also allows them to target specific patches or potential upgrades. Instead of having a whole OS download, if they can do something cool right in the Steam client, they can just do the Steam update and roll that one out. So I think that's just going to give them more flexibility because, you know, when you're in a big company and you're releasing software patches, there's a big process that goes into it because you don't want to break anybody's system that they're currently using. So maybe not updating the OS every time is going to prevent more and more bugs from being introduced that way, and they could just update the Steam client separately and add those features that way.
You know what? Somebody is probably going to be like, but privacy. What I think would be the best thing is if I have to call up Steam support and they say, what's your Steam username? And they type in my Steam username or whatever, and it brings up which channel my Steam Deck is on. It brings up all that information. They can say, oh, okay, here's the problem. Because I have run in for a couple of years. I ran in, which as a content creator, this was very frustrating. For a couple of years, I had some serious issues with the internet in my house. And I would call the cable company and I'd be like, hey, it's happening again. And they would say, just a moment. And they would send a signal. And somebody is like, they were just resetting it. No, they weren't. Because if I reset it, nothing happened. It kept doing the issue. But they would say, just a second. They would send a signal. They would do whatever it is that they have to do, and it would fix it. And I would say, all right, well, you guys need to make it so I can stop making these phone calls. And it took a couple of years, but finally they did. Knock on wood, because now it's going to... I shouldn't have said anything. Anyway, being able to just connect to my device and fix it is really nice. Like when I've called Apple and said, hey, how do I do this? And they say, hey, can you give me control of your device? And then it pops up and they're like, now tap on this. And they can see what I'm doing. That's really good. That kind of thing should be in this. And it should be opt-in so that it can't be abused by crazy people. Because we all know crazy people will abuse stuff. But anyway, I thought that was really interesting. And I was just curious what you thought about that. You ready to move on to, well, I guess we kind of already talked about this, is that Final Fantasy VII. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a really interesting thing. The whole release of Final Fantasy VII Remake was very interesting because it was announced that it was Steam Deck verified before the game was officially available. So I could be wrong, and people in chat, please, or in the comments, please let us know if we're wrong. But this is kind of like the first pre-verified game that has been announced by Steam. I can't think of another game that was launching on Tuesday and was announced that it was pre-verified on a Monday, say.
I get what you're saying.
Like every other big new game that I've seen has come up with unknown until you install it, and then maybe a few days later, like Turtles now shows verified, I believe, but it didn't at launch. The first one that I can think of is Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which means that there's some partnerships that are going on with the big publishers and Valve, as we said should happen.
Yeah.
And obviously that is happening. So it was it was kind of really neat to get a new game announced, and then you don't have that question anymore. Oh, is this even going to run on my deck? Well, it had the verified checkmark right away when it was available in the store. Hopefully Valve keeps doing that with the major, like, big AAA releases, just so we know that if we're spending our $60 US for a title, that it's going to run on our deck on day one.
Yeah, they even, in the Square Enix presentation, which I watched because I was interested in seeing what was going on with Final Fantasy. I was hoping to see something for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, Reborn, I think is what it's called. That was announced. It comes out like next Christmas, so we're a long way off from that one, which is just crazy to me. But I was watching it for that, and then they even like the guys standing there talking, and a little Steam Deck floats up on the screen next to him, and he's like, "And it's going to be on the Steam Deck," when they announced the Steam version. So that was really interesting. And you go back to like episode 1 or so of the show, and you'll hear Lloyd and I talk about the fact that we think that a lot of publishers will look at this device, the Steam Deck, as a way. They're going to look at it as a because it's so popular, because it's oh God, how do I want to say this? Because this thing has long coattails, a lot of developers are going to want to get on those coattails and ride along into the sunset, because it's this thing right here. If you get that verified check mark, that puts you into a separate area of the store, and that separate area of the store where everybody who's got one of these things is looking. That's very, very compelling. So it behooves developers or publishers to make sure that their games get that little green check mark.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, there's been a number of games that have come out recently, and I've had that thought, oh, is it really going to run on the deck? And it's like, most games will. I don't know why this one wouldn't, but you have that uncertainty when you're looking at the store listing. This one immediately had that green check mark when it was available for install, because I bought it within minutes of it being on the store, and it was already green check mark verified when it was available for download. So really great to see. We said that this needs to happen just so people have assurance that their games that they're buying are going to work. And it's great to see Valve is already a step ahead, as we assume that they would be, because they've been a step ahead every other time that we've been talking about them. So, congrats to Square for getting this one out. I'm sure this was a big, heavy lift to get this one running really well under Steam Deck. And like I said, three-ish hours on one charge is not what I expected when I heard that Final Fantasy VII Remake was coming to Steam Deck. I expected 45 minutes and the back of my plastic on the back of the device melting. And that doesn't happen. It plays really, really well without a lot of fan noise, except if you're running around the big city, the big open area city that you get into shortly after doing the kind of the intro of the game. When you're running around, the fan can kick into high. But other than that, it's just been playing fantastic. So good job on everybody involved getting this one released and playable on Steam Deck.
That's awesome. Lawrence Yang tweeted this out. He said, "Hello to all Steam Deck and Windows," and then he puts in parentheses, WinDeck enthusiast. We've just updated the APU driver for Windows on Steam Deck to address issues with Halo Infinite and other titles that regressed recently. The new driver can be found here. I did not. I expected Valve, because I guess I expect corporations to behave in a way that is anti-consumer. That's just what I expect these days. I expected Valve to ship SteamOS 3 and then say, "Look, we made Windows drivers. We're done with you. We don't need to do anything else. Move on and just use SteamOS. That's the better way anyway." That's what I expected that from Valve, but they're doing active development on the Windows drivers side of things in order to make it easier for people who want to run Windows to run Windows. I don't want to run Windows, but I think it's awesome that they're making it easier for people to run Windows if they want to. Any thoughts on that, Lloyd?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I can't remember where the quote came from, but there was a quote that was done up recently where they're like, "Yeah, we're supporting Windows because there's going to be a large segment of our player base that's going to be there." And I didn't expect that much focus on the Windows side of things, because the Steam Deck partially exists to get Linux running on more machines and more games running on Linux instead of everything being locked behind the Microsoft tax to get an OS license to run Windows 10. So I didn't expect so much focus on the Windows drivers. As you said, once it was working, I thought that would be the end of it, and then maybe there'd be hobbyists that would be making things better or tweaking things. But yeah, it is really great to see Valve focusing on that segment of the population almost as much as they're focusing on the Steam version or the Steam segment of the population. And it'll be interesting, like a year out, how well the Windows version of things run on the Steam Deck compared to the Linux version of things. Is there going to be still a large segment of people that are going to be using Windows like only primarily just Windows, or is that going to slowly then start tilting back towards the Linux side of things? It'll be very cool to see how that plays for the next I don't know, year or so as we get those numbers.
And just a reminder for all of you who like, you're how are we running these Windows games on a Linux machine? It's because of Proton, and there was an update to Proton Experimental. This happened on the 14th, and so that's like 6 days ago or something. But the thing that I was reading through it, and the thing that jumped out to me is it says update file distribution method to save disk space. So Lloyd, last episode, I think it was last episode, you showed your Steam Deck storage, and that onboard storage was 100% filled. And like I remember when you showed it to me, I was shocked. So how are we doing now on that? Has this fixed that at all, or did you take matters in your own hands?
Both. So yeah, I found quickly that games won't boot when you have no internal storage. So they would just crash, and it's like, so that's happened a few times since first noticing that, where I've had to go in and monkey with my internal storage. Usually what that means is I need to uninstall games which aren't living on my internal storage, but there's enough of like the shader cache stuff that would live there, so that deleting a bunch of games I'm not playing on my 512 gig SD card was actually freeing gigabytes on my internal storage. So I was floating around 2 gigs free because of all that stuff being deleted. And then this update came out, and all of a sudden I have like 6 gigs free. So
nice.
What I think they're doing here is they're doing kind of like diffs between Proton Experimental and Proton 7. So the difference is only a small, say 100 kilobits worth of data. So they just have that download. It loads everything from Proton 7, and then it loads this little bit from Proton Experimental. That would be my thought of how they're doing it. They're just installing the diffs essentially between the two versions. And if that's the case, thank you, because now I have actual storage, and I don't have to play the let's uninstall games so I can install new games, or play the games that are currently installed game that I'd been playing for a while. So good on Valve for doing this, because I know other than the shader stuff, all these versions of Proton that it downloads were chewing up a huge percentage of my internal storage, and I had no bytes available, which was not a good thing.
You know, I don't know if it's because when I turn on my Steam Deck, it just shows turtles now, because that's what I'm always playing. I don't know if that's the reason, or if there's been a change, but it used to be that when I turned on my Steam Deck, it was always downloading something. Like nonstop. Yeah. It was always downloading something. And I don't remember recently, unless I was going out and getting a demo, seeing the little icon showing up on the top menu bar where it was like, hey, we're downloading a thing right now. I don't remember seeing that as much. And I'm curious to everybody out there who's listening or watching this, let us know. Are you experiencing that too, or is this just something that's in my head? Because I'm curious. What about you, Lloyd? Have you noticed fewer downloads lately, or do you think it's just because I've been playing only Turtles?
I've noticed smaller downloads, because I know there was a bug before, or they addressed it a few updates back, where whenever it would download your shaders, it would download the whole package of the shaders. So say it was a gig total. Every time there was an update, it would download that whole gigabyte again, or 200 megs, or whatever it was. I'm noticing that my shader updates are now like I don't know, 60K, 100K. Like there's smaller downloads that go really, really fast. So maybe the downloads are happening, but they're just happening so fast because it's not downloading big chunks of data anymore for every game that you've played in the last little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. Let us know, people who have a Steam Deck in their hands. Let us know if you're noticing that, or maybe I'm just crazy. I think I'm going to skip over the fact that we already mentioned that Final Fantasy VII is on sale right now. So I'm just going to, speaking of sales, jump to the Steam Summer Sale, which starts on June 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific time and goes until July 7th. I am very, very excited for the Steam Summer Sale. There's always a bunch of stuff on sale, but the big sales that Valve puts out, those are usually where you get like really, really crazy deals. And boy, they're highlighting some games in this super cut that are definitely interesting to me. Like they showed off Resident Evil 8, which I already own, but I want to buy again for some reason because I'm a glutton for punishment. They showed off. Oh gosh, what was it? They just showed off Red Dead. There was something else. There's Lego Star Wars, which has been on my list. And my guess is if they're showing these things off in the Steam Summer Sale announcement video, that they'll probably be, those games will be on sale. Anyway, then they go into stuff about badges and stuff, which I just could not care less about, badges on the store and stuff. But are there any games that, geez, Lloyd, you just bought a bunch of stuff. Are there any games that you're holding out hope for to get on sale next week?
I have a large wish list, and I'm kind of dreading the number of emails I'm going to get about all the games that are on sale on my wish list, because I can't afford to keep buying games and not playing them. But that's what's been happening lately because Steam and sales. So yeah, I think I'm good for the next little bit, but I'm sure that at some point something will come out that I really want. I'm thinking. I can't even think of any of the games. I mean, I'll pull up my wish list while we're talking.
Oh, don't look at it.
Yeah, I don't really want to see what's on it, kind of, because I want to. There's a bunch of things that are on sale on it already, but yeah, there's a number of games that I want to play. All the Final Fantasy Pixel remakes, I want to pick those up, even though I own like cartridges for all of those games, so I could just, without feeling guilty, just emulate them and do it. But I kind of like the thought of playing through the Pixel remakes. So if those go on a deep discount, getting Final Fantasy 3 and 6 in the Pixel remake would be really, really nice. That I would probably bite on those, even though I have hundreds of hours of things that I need to play already sitting on my Steam Deck.
Yeah, oh, man, I have to say, I had stepped away from PC gaming for a really, really long time because it was, you had to build a computer or whatever. This thing consoleizes the PC gaming experience, but you get all of those advantages of the PC gaming experience where games are cheaper and there's constantly sales and you can buy games from a bunch of different stores. So I can go to Green Man Gaming, or I can go to is it Fanatical?
Fanatical, yeah.
Yeah, I can go to Fanatical. You get all these different places where you can buy your Steam codes. Paying full price for a game is almost never necessary, which is really, really cool. Boy, the Steam Summer Sale is coming, and I think that hopefully our wallets can withstand the pain that is about to be inflicted upon them. Let us know what games you're picking up on the summer sale, what games you think, like if you see something on sale, then you like, this is a really, really good deal. Join our community Discord and let everybody know in the deals channel if you find really good deals during the Steam Summer Sale. Lloyd, I hope that you are having an awesome day, and we're doing this on a different day than we usually do. But that's it for today's episode of On Deck, and we will be back next week for another one. So, Lloyd, why don't you tell everybody to have an awesome day?
Awesome. All right, well, everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. We're recording this on a Monday, which is weird. So I usually say enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody, which you can't unless it's next weekend. And by that time, it'll long be time for On Deck again. So have a week, everybody, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
Bye-bye.